talk more about it, we are joined in by Professor Swaran Singh from JNU. We're also joined in by Mr. Vishnu Prakash. He's former senior diplomat. We welcome both of you this morning on DD India to talk more about Prime Minister's visit to the USA. To begin with, I'll first go across to Professor Swaran Singh. Professor Swaran Singh, I would want you to first talk about the expectations. Since morning we've been showing detailed reports to our viewers about what could be on the agenda when the Prime Minister visits the US. The most important point being that there is a change of guard in the US, and this is for the first time that Prime Minister will be having an in-person meeting with President Joe Biden. What are the expectations that both the countries can look forward to?
Just like Prime Minister Modi, President Joe Biden has also been in politics for a long time, unlike his predecessor. So Prime Minister has had several earlier occasions to, meet and build that friendship with President Joe Biden. Even when Joe Biden was a senator, later chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and then of course Vice President and now President. So they are just going to reconnect and reinforce, I think, their long friendship that they have had over a period of time. I think it's also a great occasion for India's foreign policy, which had entered a completely new phase with Prime Minister Modi taking over, because very hyperactive and hectic footprint of his visits abroad had made India far too much visible and noticeable country in global community. And pandemic, of course, saw again Prime Minister conducting very regular diplomacy on video conferencing, but nothing like meeting in person, face to face, which is how traditionally diplomacy has evolved. So I think it opens a fresh chapter for India's foreign policy in general, because after his last visit to Bangladesh in March last year, and of course, US visit was in September 2019. It's an occasion where he's going to meet a whole range of national leaders and, of course, attend several meetings, but particularly reinforce the relationship between India and United States, which is perhaps one of the most important relationships that India shares. Because at that relationship, that level of relationship, issues are not just limited to bilateral relationship. Issues are at the regional level and global level. For example, India still, like rest of the world, is in the middle of pandemic. So how India and United States, and of course quadrilateral security framework, 4 countries together, India, Japan, Australia and United States. He's also meeting prime ministers of Australia and Japan separately, along with having a bilateral with President Joe Biden. So pandemic would be an important issue. Climate change is going to be another important issue where India has taken a whole.
All right, so I believe a lot of focus and attention has been given to the Indo-Pacific region in specific. Importance of this region, and also when these 4 countries sit to talk, what is it that is of concern in the region?
Very clearly, Preeti, this Indo-Pacific region has come into debate for nearly a decade now.
Yes.
And the primary reason for this Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean being combined together to be seen as one geopolitical region is the fact that in 21st century, unlike 19th and 20th century, economic component of national power has become very significant in measuring a nation's influence in the world. So in that sense, because growth rates have been much better in this part of the world now, partly because developed nations cannot continuously show a very high rate of growth. So developing and least developed nations in this Indo-Pacific littoral, led by China and Japan and Asian, Southeast Asian tigers, for example, from 1970s, have shown much faster growth rate. And that is where you would remember in 2001 and 2003, 2 papers, very important groundbreaking papers, were written by Jim O'Neill. He was then chairman of Goldman & Sachs Asset Management, who devised this whole idea of this region being more attractive, more investments need to come to this region. And of course, because of rise of China, economic rise resulting into political influence, and China being a very different kind of a nation compared to liberal democracies, free market economies that have been kind of the major players in international decision making. China became a kind of a shared concern for much of rest of the world in that sense. So that has, you could start from Obama's pivot to Asia in 2008 or rebalancing of Asia, etc., strategies to now President Trump introducing Indo-Pacific strategy and Indo-Pacific naval command in that sense. So the geopolitical focus, because of economics being an important component, has come to this Indo-Pacific region, and India is very central to this region and also large and growing economy. So India has become very integral to this debate on Indo-Pacific and quadrilateral security framework, in which right now Japan and Australia are already alliance partners of United States, and they would have ideally, even ignored India, but India could not be ignored because India is the largest growing economy in the region that they can engage other than China, and China is the concern. So this has seen these four countries coming together first in 2007, but it lay dormant in 2017 onwards. They have picked up momentum. And not only foreign ministers, but on 12th of March, even during pandemic, they had their first summit meeting, and now this Friday, they will have the first in-person face-to-face meeting. The Indo-Pacific has become really so attractive that you are now seeing that there is also discussion of Quad Plus, which is going to include
Yes.
perhaps South Korea, Vietnam, and
New Zealand.
Then there is Quad Plus Plus, in which European nations are interested. And now you saw recently Joe Biden introducing us the AUKUS, Australia, UK, and US military alliance. That, in that sense, that introduces a new flavor into the Indo-Pacific region. Indian Foreign Secretary did underline recently that there is no connection between Quad and AUKUS. But I think AUKUS is going to be a factor to come into notice of how Quad moves forward. And other than the three focus areas that they had defined in March, for example, new technologies, critical technologies, and then of course climate change and pandemic, I think they are going to introduce some of the new areas now. And in that sense, rearranging the supply chain networks, which has been a cause of concern because of most of production global chains being concentrated in China. And among these, most important would be, the semiconductors. The world is increasingly becoming dependent on use of semiconductors, and countries that produce either the design or the production of semiconductors will become very influential. And in this reorganization of supply chain, I think that how to, ensure that the semiconductors are produced, in design in the United States, maybe production lines in India. So how to reduce that dependence on China is where quadrilateral security framework is going to perhaps focus afresh as to how to become less dependent on China, and therefore, expand their own canvas. Quadrilateral security dialogue is no longer just focusing on security, as you see, their
Right.
focus areas are widening over a period of time, and consolidating and reinforcing will perhaps be the focus in the Friday meeting that four leaders will be meeting together.
Right. All right. States, Professor Singh, when we talk of the engagement of US in the different, forums, uh, so would you say when we talk of specifically engaging with the Quad, all the countries, participating countries in the Quad have, have bore the brunt of the pandemic, and they are collectively talking of the fight against the pandemic and also vaccines, climate, and other critical technologies fronts. So, would you say that? Has the Quad further evolved and the priorities have further evolved this time when these leaders meet?
We all saw President Joe Biden speech on General Assembly yesterday, UN General Assembly, where he's again, just like his earlier tour to Europe, which was the first foreign tour, underlined the fact that America is back. And America wants to
Yes.
take on the global leadership. And he underlined how, compared to earlier focus on using military power, he's going to invest much more on diplomacy. In fact, he talked of doubling the international assistance, and he's going to request Congress to do that. So, focus very clearly, as he wants to underline, is shifting from pure force to diplomacy in ensuring global leadership of United States, which makes, I think, the quadrilateral security dialogue very interesting platform for him to engage. Because these are the leaders of whether Australia, Japan, and India. India, I would say particularly, historically has been focused on use of dialogue and diplomacy instead of force. So, in that sense, I think this change is something which is very important in U.S. foreign policy. He is focusing much more today on, global climate change issues. He's focusing much more on the COVID pandemic, which is where the Quad has already decided in terms of burden sharing. United States is going to help with innovation and material supplies. Japan is going to financially contribute. India is going to be the main hub for production because we are now called the pharmacy of the world, as you earlier also heard. And Australia is going to help in disbursement and distribution of vaccines. In their 12th March summit meeting, they had already set the target of India producing 1 billion doses of vaccines to be given around the Indo-Pacific littoral. You heard Health Minister recently announcing that in October, India is going to restart export to contribute to the World Health Organization's efforts to use their platform to distribute vaccines around the world to begin with 40% of world to be vaccinated and ultimately, of course, 70% of the world to be vaccinated. 40% has to be vaccinated within this year. So India is a very important contributor when it comes to how Joe Biden wants to kind of reshape global engagement of United States. And that is where I think the four countries are going to come together and talk to each other as to how they can build those strategies to contribute in terms of Quad becoming an important player in the region. And Quad is expanding its agenda just beyond the three things, three subgroups that they had set up in March, which is critical technologies, pandemic, and climate change. I think there are also going to be other issue areas, which is where they're going to focus and start new initiatives. Obviously, how to organize a global consensus on ensuring a certain restraint on Taliban regime, which is everybody's concern. But we notice that some of the countries like Russia, China, Pakistan have slightly different take on how they wish to engage the new regime in Afghanistan. Compared to much of the world led by European nations and United States, North Africa. And India has constantly been talking about it, whether it is BRICS nations or it is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit that recently Prime Minister also addressed. India fundamentally is trying to contribute to that building of consensus of setting certain benchmarks, which are the minimum benchmarks of how the participation of people has to be ensured in decision making, basic human rights have to be protected, development has to be the focus. Women's rights are an important issue. And in that sense, I think they have to work together in ensuring that there is a global consensus built to ensure certain restraint and minimum norms of governance and civility that the Taliban must ensure and demonstrate so that then international community can collectively in one voice think of considering giving them recognition as a legitimate government. India for last 3 months have been underlining 2-3 elements which are very dear to India from India's national interests, which is immediate stopping of all violence on the ground,
Yes.
ensuring safety and security of Indian citizens and people of Indian origin in Afghanistan, giving them complete freedom to leave the country if they wish to leave the country, and of course ensuring that no outfit of any kind, whether it is Daesh, which is Islamic State, or Al-Qaeda or Jaish-e-Mohammed, any of these, none of these should be able to use the territory of Afghanistan to launch any anti-India initiative. So these are things that India has, from Indian national perspective, also put on the table for about 3 months now. And India is contributing in that sense to the global consensus to be built as to how to deal with this immediate problem other than the pandemic, which again, so I think pandemic, climate change, and terrorism are going to be three very important issues. And these three nations, which are important stakeholders, Australia, Japan, and India, can really contribute along with the United States to ensure stability and relief to this entire larger littoral of Indo-Pacific, which then is just waiting in the wings to start resilience and live normal life and bring their economies back to the rails. Indian economy is again picking up. You see the speed, just like many other economies are beginning to pick up speed. So in that resilience of economies, there is an opportunity to give a new direction compared to how development models were working before. If you have an entire new beginning in that sense of a new chapter of economic development after pandemic, there is the possibility to build new networks, new supply lines, new production lines, and new kind of collaboration between nations. And I think that is where United States, along with Australia, Japan, and India, and some of the other interested nations, in Europe, in North America, in Southeast Asia, who are also willing to participate and at least coordinate with quadrilateral security framework. United States sees this as a great platform for them, and I think India as well is looking forward to make a major contribution. India's medicines, equipment, vaccines have already been going around the world, and world is still in middle of pandemic, so that issue is still on the table. Very soon we are moving towards the next climate change summit meeting.
Yes.
So I think in that sense, these are issues that are really going to be up in their negotiations. And of course, by the sidelines, Indian Prime Minister is meeting Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Indian Prime Minister has held summit meetings with them already. For example, last June, Indian Prime Minister had summit meeting with Scott Morrison. This April, online summit meeting with Prime Minister Suga. So online and phone conversations were already taking place, but this is a time to build that bonhomie in one person-to-person meetings, which again I think is going to really give a kind of a kickstart to how India can contribute to global decision making and relief efforts in both dealing with terrorism, climate change, and providing vaccines.
Right. Yes, you're talking of these priorities.